delicious in his tasting glass later on. But for this evening, it is me and you all, and we have two fabulous guests. So just as we wait for everyone to come online, I want to hear from you guys, first of all. I want to know, obviously it's Burns night next week, 25th of January, the night we celebrate Scotch whisky. We have two whiskies hailing from Scotland this evening, which is very exciting. So kind of a little early Burns night spectacular. But I want to know if you've got anything special lined up in your tasting glasses before we get going this evening. So have a think. Maybe you bought something special. Maybe you think maybe one of the whiskies tonight will impress me. I'll get that for my Burns night haul. Whatever it is, let me know. I'm very intrigued. I'm actually going to be in a bar on Burns night, which is very exciting. I feel like we've not had enough bar time of late with all various restrictions, dare we say it, and all of these things. So yeah, I can't wait. I will definitely be having a whiskey cocktail and a dram or two. So I want to know what you're having on the 25th, which is Tuesday. Not long to go at all. Right. But for this evening, what have we got coming up? So we've got two drams left. For those who didn't join us last time, and you might be, maybe joining us for the very first time, perhaps you got a pour and sip box for your Christmas present and you couldn't join us before. Let me tell you a bit what's going down. So my name's Christy or Christiana. I'm normally joined by my co-host, as you'll understand. And what we do is the first and third Thursday, typically, if that changes, we will let you know in advance. We just get together and enjoy some whiskey from the box. Ta-da! One right here. And this evening, we are going to be tasting, first of all, Tobermory. So ready the dram, ready the tasting glass. And then, very excitingly, our very own Compass Box exclusive whiskey. So this is a whiskey you can't get anywhere else. It's been specially blended for us, which is pretty incredible, really. And we've got Jill, who is Compass Box's chief blender, to tell us all about it and how she creates it. But we've got two guests as well. First up, we've got Olivier from Tobermory, and we're going to hear all about the Ireland distillery. I was lucky enough to visit there a while back, and I love it. So I can't wait for an update from Ireland Life. And oh, fantastic. We've got some comments coming through already. This is the most important thing to say. This is your tasting. We want to hear from you. We want to hear your tasting notes. We want to hear your thoughts. We want to hear what you think about the whiskies. And we also want your questions for our guests. We are so lucky to have two really, really brilliant people coming to join us and chat all things whiskey with us. So get involved and ask some questions. And we'll read out as many as we can, I should say. We have got so many things coming through already. So first of all, hopefully I'm pronouncing your name right, Real Boyinger. Good evening from Edinburgh, my first live one. Welcome to the party. Where have you been? Very, very glad you're here with us. Malcolm Tucker had a haggis last night, getting on the Burns night sesh early. I like it. Ian Jambo Rain will probably have a glass of the Glaswegian 29-year-old grain from last year for Burns night. A man after my own heart. Love a single grain. Why not indeed? TACD, I caught up with the Christmas tasting last week and treated myself to a Starwood, Teeling and Christmas cake. Oh, yeah, the Christmas cake and whiskey. That was a treat. Very festive. So I like that you're keeping the festive spirit going forward into January. I like it. Why not? Jess Montgomery, Burns night, I'm going to a Glenfiddich thing and the day after a Glenlivet thing. My goodness, you're literally... Oh my goodness, hitting all of the big ones. And I'm very excited about them. So you want to hear all about it. So join us for the tasting next time because I will ask. When you say you're going to a thing, is this an event? Is it a distillery visit? Let us know. That would be very exciting. To go to an actual distillery for Burns night, that would be magic. And then Simon, got a bottle of Cardrona for the weekend and Burns night. Cardrona's from New Zealand, but we'll let you off. We're international. We won't discriminate against all of the whiskies. We're here for them. As long as they're delicious, which Cardrona is, it can definitely be drunk on Burns night. We're very here for it. So I think we should get going with tonight's whiskies. Again, the whole way through, please keep your comments and thoughts and tasting notes coming in, and we'll get through as many as we can. We absolutely love hearing from you. So yeah, Burns night's on the agenda, two Scotch whiskies. I think it's time we go to our first guest and our first whiskey, technically our fourth of the box, but our first one for this evening. So let's bring in Olivier MacLean all the way from Tobermory. Hi there, Olivier. How are you doing?
Hi, everybody. It's a pleasure
Good
being
evening.
Tonight. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you so much for joining us. Whereabouts are you? Are you based up on the Isle of Mull, where Tobermory is?
Yeah, because you can imagine you cannot go back and to work if you're on an island. So I live just right a little bit south of Craignoor, which is the main port coming from Oban onto the island. It's about 30 minutes drive up to the beautiful coastline of Mull into Tobermory, which is absolutely fantastic.
I have been lucky enough to visit Mull once, and I'm visualizing that road up from the ferry port. And it doesn't take very long until it's a single street with these passing places, which I find very terrifying to drive on.
Well, in wintertime, like now, it's easy, but in summer, it's kind of 45 minutes to 50 minutes. It's just
Wow.
all about the traffic go on and off, but we love it, we enjoy it, we embrace it. I cannot only say high enough, come and join us, come to the island, book your ferry early. There might be some issues with the ferry. Maybe you read that lately, so book your holidays early, because I know for sure, as we always have a Mull rally going in October, it's already booked. So if you haven't booked yet for the Mull rally, you won't be having a place for accommodation. So that's how busy we are on Mull, which is absolutely great.
It's amazing. Mull is in high demand. So just to give us a bit of a geography lesson, whereabouts in Scotland is the Isle of Mull compared to maybe like Glasgow or Islay, which we might be more familiar with?
West Coast. So if you know Glasgow, you go up a wee bit, and then Oban is the port.
Oh no, have you frozen?
Island. It's the Inner Hebrides. It's the second largest island in the Inner Hebrides.
Yeah.
And it's an amazing wildlife itself. And we are so proud being the only whiskey distillery on the island, which is just amazing. And we are one of the oldest active producing distillery in Scotland itself, back to 1798, which is also a lot of history to talk about, which I hopefully can do tonight and get you more about into our distillery.
Yes. Oh my goodness, there is so much to get through and so much to talk about. There's so much history, so much creativity, and multiple whiskies, which we'll definitely talk about as well. But first of all, tell us a bit about you. So what do you do at Tobermory, and what is your journey to get there?
I'm the brand, we call it brand home manager. So I'm take care of the business center, the shop. I take care of all visitors coming across. Unfortunately, due to the pandemic, we weren't able to do any tours the last 18 months, which was, you can imagine, kind of devastating. However, lucky enough, we are being back to business since April 21, doing tastings, which you have to pre-book, obviously, about the rules and regulations. Been busy summer, though, which is interesting to see the shifting a little bit away from international travelers into UK, Ireland, and also see the shifting from doing tours, being occupied for 45 minutes, or do the same in a kind of a nice space environment. So you sit with your guests either in the warehouse, which is great, and have the taste from the casks, or in our dramming room in the shop, very nice, and talk about themselves. So you can really build a relationship with the customers, talking about our products, which is just amazing. Saying that because we're doing two complete different single malts. And in addition to that, maybe you know that since 2019, we're adding the gin line into this as well. So what else we can? It's just amazing. It is
amazing. That's very, very cool. So tell me, first of all, where did you work before joining Tobermory? Have you had a long career in the whiskey industry?
It's been 6 years now. So I started my mini career as a tour guide in Blair Athol.
Oh, another fabulous distillery.
Which is also a picturesque distillery. But the big difference, first of all, they are producing 99% for blends, which we do not. So 99.9% from our production goes into our single malts, which is great. And just a little bit into the blends, like Black Bottle. Maybe you heard about that.
Yeah, we had a Black Bottle in Pour and Sip actually, not very long ago, which was amazing.
So we are contributing a wee bit, just a wee bit. The rest really goes into our single malts. So I was there for about 3 years as a tour guide. You might hear I'm not the typical Scottish accent. So my roots goes back to Switzerland. So I'm a Swiss native. MacLean, that's another story to tell, but I love the stories. Okay, that's about single malt. It's about stories. So the MacLean clan, of course, heritage in Mull. They do have roots down to Switzerland, Geneva, and
that's so fascinating.
That goes down to the Christianity and the traveling. So I was lucky enough 3 years ago to get the opportunity of becoming a brand home manager at Tobermory, and it all comes together like piece by piece, MacLean, go on mull, and being the brand home manager of Tobermory and Ledaig, which is absolutely stunning. And it's an opportunity, and I'm very pleased to do so. Absolutely.
Yes. I can imagine. Now, I have got so many questions for you, as you can imagine. I'm just going to read out some tasting notes first, because we have got so many coming in already, which is incredible. But this is like a sneak peek, and I always get massive FOMO reading this, because I had a tiny little nose in the taste yesterday, but now we have loads. First of all, Steve Coleman Williams says, mull to drive is mental. You get used to it, but be prepared to reverse for 2 miles. I relate to that. What else have we got? DH, we were in mull in the camper van in the summer, which is very cool. Steve Coleman Williams is getting peaches with fresh straw, leading to warm apple crumble on the nose. Reverend Kevin Wright says, nice nose. My wife suggests black treacle and toast with loads of butter. I'm getting something lighter, more syrup honey with some spice. That's amazing. Nice. Bruce Edwards getting vanilla on the nose. We've got Dave Stanton, pear, apple and toast. Oh, I'm loving the toast vibes. That's so accurate. Jared McNeely, steamed apple pudding and custard. We've got more comments about mull driving. So many people have been to mull already. This is amazing. Green tea is green. Tobermory is a great nose, fruity and spicy. Nigel Gaines enjoying the lightness of the nose. Who else have we got? Real boing, apples, yes, and cinnamon, a bit of apple pie. Oh, hello, a late hello to Alistair, who says, joining late and lamenting the passing of my little dog tonight. So I'll be toasting him. Oh, that's so sad. Thinking of you, Alistair. We're raising a dram to your dog for sure. And we've got a comment from Greg here. This is a very cool one. He visited Tobermory for his 50th birthday. So nice to see you again. I feel like your paths across before, which is fabulous. And then just a couple more, because really I'm getting FOMO. Mouth is watering. Mike Sutcliffe, apple Danish pastry on the nose, and Chris Randall, smoked toffee apples as well. So this is exciting. I have got loads of questions about the distillery, but talk us a little bit through the dram.
Okay, no worries. So that we have here is our core range, or signature, we call it. It's from the Tobermory side, which is no peat. I maybe have the opportunity to talk about Ledaig later on.
Yes. So we have to, because one of our all-time favourites, and some long-standing pouring sippers will remember, was the Ledaig in a Rioja cask. So we must revisit Ledaig 100%.
No worries. So that's a 12-year-old. Replaced in April 2019. Our previous one was a 10-year-old. That's been 12 years matured in American oak, so ex-bourbon and virgin oak. So on the appearance, it's a very light color. Yeah. Okay. And on the nose, it's very fruity, very delicate.
So fruity.
What I get as well is from that ex-bourbon, it's the vanilla.
Yes.
Flavor from that one, and a wee bit of oak.
I'm getting some like coconut, like a Bounty Bar vibe.
Aye.
For sure. And it is quite light and delicate. Maybe some orchard fruits and hedgerow fruits as well.
Nice. So also mention all our products, Tobermory or Ledaig, we do a known chill filtering process, and which brings us not more down than 46.3 ABV.
Fantastic.
And no color added whatsoever. So all what you get in your glasses, I always say, comes right from our casks. Exactly. So I think it's time for have a first sip.
Yes, please. Yes, please. Cheers to you. Cheers to everybody.
If it's your first sip, I always say don't judge a single malt off the first sip. Okay, all your sensors had to get used to. Okay, it might come across a bit spicy, but I can guarantee you the second sip is always better than the first. The third better than the second, and after the bottle you're fine. Okay.
I like it, but remember, sip, don't gulp.
What you get, it's a very nice and mellow stream goes down in your throat, and the second one it's even better. Toffee, creamy, very soft, very mellow. Even though the 46.3 might tell you, oh, that would be a harsh one, but it's not. It's very easy accessible. That's why we have so much of a success, because it's a single malt. First of all, no peat, and secondly, very soft, very easy to access. Absolutely gorgeous. a very nice entrance into the single malt world from us. Absolutely gorgeous. Nice.
Yeah, it is. It's making, I love how there's sort of like a really gentle sort of warmth from like nutmeg and cinnamon, but other than that, it's completely smooth, and it's such a lovely warmth rather than anything remotely hot or remotely sharp. It's beautiful.
It stays a bit here on your throat, and then it goes down, and it warms you nicely up down there. Okay, absolutely gorgeous.
Gorgeous. Now, I'm trying to talk to you with a mouthful of whiskey. I've swallowed my whiskey, and now we're good to go.
Oh, yes.
So I have some questions for you from me, and I've already got some questions coming in from everyone drinking along as well. So keep them coming in. If you've got questions for Olivier, keep them coming. My first question, for anyone fairly new to whiskey, give us a little explanation of what non-chill filtered mean, non-chill filtration, because for me, this is something really special, really interesting, and people might not be familiar with it.
We have to go back in history as well. Okay, so why the industry come up with a chill filtering process was back in the days, early 19th, 20th century, people say you have sediments in your whiskey. It looks like damp, okay? And that's kind of natural because it's matured in an oak cask. So you get a little bit of a dampness in your liquid, but honestly, I don't see any damp in that one. However, the industry reacted on that. So while you get the liquid out of the cask, it goes through a chill filtering process, which means you cool it down to -8 degrees for a few seconds. That gives you rid about the cloudiness, we say so, in the liquid. It gives you more clearer spirit. Again, you have to have in mind in the early 1900s, it was most popular having a blended than a single malt.
Yeah.
And the chill filtering allows you also to go down to about 40% of ABV, which was the limit. Which is the limit still today on the legal and law side. So you can go down to 40%, make more out of your whiskey, and stretch it a little bit. Okay, so that's why the chill filtering process came in place. However, we are proud to say we do not do that chill filtering process. Again, what you get in your glass is out from the cask, which is absolutely amazing, and it gives you the natural spirit as well. Okay,
yeah,
that makes sense. Did I answer kind of that one?
I think it's perfect, and I really find it interesting. Some people say that you can't perceive it. Some people do. It's a really interesting production choice for me. But for me, I find that non-chill filtered whiskies feel a little bit oilier in your mouth. Maybe they're a little bit more unctuous, which I really enjoy. Now, a question from, I've got so many questions and comments coming. I'm losing my place. John Pollard. John's asking, does Tobermory have its own floor maltings? Do you malt your own barley?
I wish to say yes, we did. So again, 223 years of existence, a lot of stories to tell. We did so back in the days. We stopped doing the malting process on site, I think beginning 1900, okay, unfortunately. So we are rely on external deliveries, which is not easy sometimes from Mull, only reachable by ferry. And that I have to be elaborated a bit broader on that malting thing. So because we're doing two complete different single malts, means we have two different malted barleys.
Yeah.
So for our and we are proud to say all our malted barley comes from Scotland. Not all distilleries can do so in Scotland. Yeah. We can. So our malted barley from for Tobermory comes from the west coast, right, the border, Berwick-on-Tweed, and you might see those lorries running around. Simpsons malt, okay, very common in the Scots malt industry. For our late check, however, obviously Islay, Port Ellen, okay.
Yes.
So we have 2 lorries coming in a week, bringing the malted barley in. We do have silos to keep the malted barley, and again, encouraging you to come back to see us. Yes. We do the milling on site and all the rest of the production as it goes in mashing, fermenting, distilling, and put them into the vat. Okay,
fantastic. Yes, and it's so interesting when you think back in the day, most distilleries would have done their own malting, and it's as demand has increased and you would have to have so much space, it just isn't really practical. And even distilleries who do have their own floor maltings will have it for a tiny proportion of their production.
We face the same issues as Oban over the seas. we stock on place. So where we sit, it's like sitting like a dock. We cannot expand. So there's the hill on the back, there's the road on the front, there's the harbor. So there's no way we can expand. So we sit there, but it's great. It's a great place to be because right in front you have the harbor. Amazing.
It's so beautiful. And all those wonderful coloured houses.
Tobermory.
Yes.
It's all about Tobermory. And it is like that. So I look out to my windows in my office and it always reminds me of Tobermory. Absolutely amazing.
I love this so much. Right, I have got so many more comments and tasting notes. Bear with me and I will rattle through as many as possible.
No worries.
So Graham and Mike are talking about Danish pastries. That's great. Oh, it's going to make me really hungry. Peter Gilmore's getting a peppery spice in the second sip. Steve Common Williams, memories of photographing and a walk around Loch Bar. Perfectly seasoned apricot and warming spice. That's amazing. I love hearing about people's distillery trips as well. Who else have we got? DS007, very smooth. Pesho says it really develops on the palate. Mikolai, the flavour definitely unravels. I don't know if that means deepens after the third sip. You start getting ginger hints. Oh, I like it. Malcolm Tucker, more fruit followed by the warmth of a ginger cake. More ginger with a peppery hint at the end. Mike Sutcliffe, great flavour and structure, delicious. So many. Simon loves the slightly oily texture. So subtle after the first couple of sips, fruity ginger. Phil, nice to hear someone say their whiskey is light, uncomplicated, and a good entry point. I agree. It doesn't have to be Marmite to be worth drinking. I love this. It's such a good point. Like if you enjoy drinking whiskey.
I agree on that one. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, it's so good. Ali C, very light and fruity with a good depth of flavour. For me, it moves into crystallised ginger and spiced apple towards the end. David Stanton, a hint of oak, lightly herbal. Ian, I'm enjoying this a lot. Really good value, would be a great introduction whiskey. And then, just from Elle Sutton, before we really have to talk about Ledaig, Tobermory was my first distillery tour in 2012. And Elle Sutton is one of our regulars on Pour and Sip. So you started off a whiskey journey by the sounds of it.
You guys have to come back, okay?
Oh my gosh, yes, please. So we've had many a comment, I've seen a handful of them, about Ledaig and the Rioja cask that we had in our box being the whiskey of the year. Some people are saying, like, oh my goodness, there was so much excitement about it. But tell us about Ledaig, because I feel like it's more of a cousin to Tobermory than a sibling, because they are very distinct.
Backstories. I love stories, okay? So 1798, a guy named John Sinclair series, Rioja cask.
Yes.
So that guy founded the distillery.
Amazing.
Ledaig, Gaelic, my sixth language, however, it means steep slope or hill or safe haven. Okay. And it is what we are. We are sitting on a safe haven. We are sitting on a slope. So Gaelic describes what you see. It's like a loch, okay, or a glen or a ben. So John Sinclair founded the distillery 1798, as I was saying, the name of Ledaig, because it's the place where he builds the distillery. It makes sense?
Yeah. That makes perfect sense.
Later the year, the name changed back and forth because right beside the distillery, the fisher town Tobermory was founded. Okay?
Amazing.
1792. So the name changed back and forth. And also we open and close the doors. So if you look back to 223 years, we are more closed than open, obviously. Okay.
Wow, that's really interesting. Think about the storied history of lots of these distilleries.
The longest period has been closed from 1930, and that goes down to the US with their provision. A lot of distilleries were closed in Scotland.
Yeah.
Us as well. And we have been closed from 1930 into 1972.
Oh my goodness, that's a whole generation.
So we celebrated that, of course. We launched 2 expressions from us. At Tobermory, 42 years old, and of course, a Ledaig, 42 years old.
Yes.
There are nil Ledaigs available. We do have, just for those guys who are interested, we still have 6 Tobermory, 42 years old available. But
I was going to say, I feel like there's a but coming. Say that again, sorry?
It comes with a price tag.
Yeah, how much is the price tag?
2,500.
Do you know, I was bracing myself for more. I don't know if this means that I've been ruined by very expensive whiskies.
That's me with my retail face, and don't take it wrong, please, guys out there. I always say, because we are not so well known as a Glenfiddich or the Glenlivet or other guys, MacAllan, we still have a price base where you think that's something I do afford myself. You see? So on the back, you see the yellow box is a 23 years old and it's £320.
Yeah.
Not bad. And then we go back to the Rioja, even below 40. So it's £38. But you have to like peat. Go back to 1972. And sorry, and I love the stories.
I love it. We love a history lesson.
we also changed the name from Ledaig to Tobermory officially. Because you see, including myself, how we will find Ledaig on a map of Scotland. There's so many Leidaigs areas. Tobermory, it's there. West Coast, Inner Hebrides, Isle of Mull. However, we kept the name Ledaig as a brand ourselves and put the peat on that.
Yes.
So therefore, we are able to provide two completely different single malts, one distillery, everything branded Tobermory, no peat, everything branded Ledaig, peat.
Yeah.
But not peat as peat, okay? We are not Islas. We are mull. So the ppm for those guys out there, they're kind of in numbers. It's about 38 to 40 ppm. It's a mellow middle peat between an open, slightly peated, and then you go Bowmore or stuff like that, or Lofroy.
Yeah, it's so interesting how this works, because for me, Ledaig is so definitely peaty, but in such a different way to Isla. For me, it's almost like rubbery, but I mean this in a good way. Like, I love Ledaig. I feel like it's the texture and it's the weight of the smoke rather than the intensity of it that's really interesting.
For me, every time any Ledaig, I love the peat is not overwhelming. You see, you still get, especially at the Rioja you mentioned, you still get that nice wine Rioja cask on your palate if you go through it. Okay, so that's why we launched 2 years ago. God, the time flies. That Rioja Sinclair series. So that's the first. Yeah. And it was the first non-age statement single malt from us.
Yeah, okay. That's really interesting.
Okay. So there will be follow-up on that Sinclair series. Just keep your eyes open, www.tobermorydistillery.com, or come directly to me, guys. I'm more than happy to tell you more about Tobermory or Ledaig.
Fabulous. And how will people find you? Are you on Instagram or Twitter?
We do have a web page on Facebook. We have Instagram. We have... No, we don't. Yeah, I think we have a Twitter account as well. Because we are not independent. Yeah. I would love to say it's my distillery. It is kind of, but it's not. So we're owned by a company called Distel.
Yeah.
And they own us as our, I call it sister, Diensten, Dunje Sterling, and Bunnahabhain. That's why they're centralizing stuff like marketing in Glasgow, East Kilbride. So they launching the stuff, they doing the website, they maintaining the web page and Facebook and Twitter and feeding in there.
Amazing. Fantastic. And we love both those distilleries as well. We love Bunnahabhain at Pour and Sip, and we love Deanston too. And just when you say time flies, how it's nearly 8 o'clock already, I do not know, but I'm just going to read out a handful more messages. And then we had so many people saying that they visited, which is fantastic. And also a lot of people calling for a Pour and Sip field trip to Mull. So be careful what you wish for. We may arrive en masse before too long.
That's fine. You can handle it.
Yes. Oh, it would be incredible. We could go camping, maybe. Who knows?
Hi.
Alistair says, my head is fried today, but that absolutely hits the spot for me on the nose, palate, and finish.
Nice.
Colin is saying Ledaig is a beautiful peated whiskey, totally different from Isla peat, in my opinion. James McClure, I'm going to say, sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrong. Oh no, I've nearly finished the Tobermory, really enjoying it. I would say head to the Pour and Sip shop and snap up a whole bottle if you're enjoying it. And then we've got... I think Bathgate, it's a wonderful, someone's mentioning Colin, it's a wonderful nose. When Steve visited, he hated the 10, 15, 18 and 25. Graham Lloyd-Jones as well. Give me more Tobermory.
Nice.
Well, there we go. We have a lot of fans in the Pour and Sip ranks.
That's great. Very, very much appreciated. And just let me finish saying we are very proud to provide you a wide range of Tobermorys, 10 at the moment, different, and Leidaigs 12 at the moment. And by different, you see, we don't play with numbers so much as others, like a 10, 12, 15, 19, 21. By different are casks. So we have a Tobermory like that one we had tasted now, American and Virgin Oak. We have a 12-year port pipe finished. We have a Marsala finished. We have a Manzanilla finished. Then on the Ledaig side, we have that Rioja cask, a fantastic one. Bourbon finished, bourbon matured, port finished. So that's just amazing stuff. And we play more with casks than with ages, which is great.
I love this. How fantastic. And what an amazing philosophy as well. What a fantastic approach. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. It's been an absolute joy. Thank you for taking us down memory lane and beyond, all the way back to 1798. And it's been amazing. And I think, I really, really enjoyed that dram. So it's been incredible.
Well, it's my pleasure too. Thank you very much for inviting me. Okay.
Yeah, we have to come back. And please also hang on till the end if you can, because we always have a bit of a whiskey gossip at the end. So hopefully we'll catch you again about 25 past 8.
Okay, cheers.
Thanks, Olivier.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
Oh, accidentally cut them off a little bit at the end then, but what amazing dram. That was so enjoyable. What I will say, Tobermory, that's the dram that I feel like I would very much enjoy on a summer beach, and it's making me slightly sad that we're not on the summer beach and it's the middle of January, but fear not. We can reorder in time for summer. Okay, let's move on to our second dram of the night, and indeed our fifth and final dram of the January box. I'm just going to pour myself a little bit right now, because this is something, I love whiskey, as you probably know. I am obsessed with whiskey. It's my first love of the spirits world, and I think all whiskies are incredible. We just had a wonderful dram to open the evening, and now we have something that you cannot get anywhere else except for with Pour and Sip. It's been blended especially for us by the wonderful Compass Box team, and Jill from Compass Box is going to come and join us. Let's zip her in. Hey there, Jill. How are you doing?
I am very well. I have sneakily made myself a cup of tea, and I was really worried that as you moved over there, I was trying to hide my mug, because it was like the first sight people should have is not of me guzzling my lovely tea. But I'm up in the north of Scotland, and it's quite cold. I have a blanket and a woolly jumper on, and I was like, tea is always needed. I should have been on brand and made myself a hot toddy, but I was like, lovely cup of tea to start. That'll be the way. So,
hearty cup of tea, you cannot go wrong. I very much enjoy a tea.
I know. And actually, I was drinking my Tobermory alongside the tea, because I drink quite weak, kind of milky tea. I do like it to have a bit of colour, but I'm like, it needs to be palish like me. And the creamy kind of textures of the tea, I always think pair well with those fruity, juicy granola flavours you get from whiskies like Tobermory. So yeah, it was beautiful. Love it.
Wonderful. So. I'm so glad. And actually, one of my former colleagues that people may know, Sam, who works with Atom Group, so does Sam Simmons, exactly. He, with his whiskey blend, says about pairing whiskey with green tea and chilled teas and iced teas, which I think is a remarkable concoction. So.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's actually books written about it, but Sam Simmons, I don't want to talk about too much, because that man is just sheer charm. I'm like, Sam, his beautiful wife, his beautiful children, and Sam with his perfect beard. I'm like, that man knows more about whiskey than I will ever get anywhere near. But yeah, he's absolutely incredible. Yeah,
he is good. We will have to get him on Pour and Sip at some point to tell us about his whiskey blending exploits. But we have you right now to tell us about your whiskey blending exploits, which is very exciting. First up, we have got comments coming in admiring your jumper, which is very exciting.
Thank you. It's available now. It's on sale at the place I bought it in. But yeah, it is so ugly that I love it so much. I was like, what's cozy? And I was like, let's get some sheep in there. So yeah.
Why not? I enjoy a characterful jumper.
Yeah.
Tell us about you. So you were Jill. You're from Compass Box. What do you do at Compass Box? And tell us a bit about you and your whiskey journey.
So I am one of the blenders at Compass Box. I've been there for over 5 years now, which seems impossible, because I literally only started yesterday. I think it is 5 years and 15 days since I started with the company.
Wow.
And it just blows my mind. I don't know where the time's gone.
How?
We are drinking some of where the time's gone. So we are a small boutique whiskey company based in Chiswick in London, which is unusual, but all our whiskey is Scotch. Some of it is blend in the fact that we've got grain and malt whiskey.
Ooh.
We have a category leader in, we have a blended grain, and we think it was the very first blended grain whiskey that was ever kind of produced kind of for purchase. I'm sure people have blended green whiskies in the past for pleasure, but we produced one of the first ever green whiskies that was available for sale as a blend. And then we also have our blended malts. But tonight we are tasting, and it is possibly because I'm about to drink it, but this is probably one of my favorite whiskies. And I have gone from being a single malt girl who wouldn't touch a blend to not exclusively drinking, but I would say 60% of the whiskeys I drink are blends, and then 30% malts, and then 10% grain, only because there's so few grain. But I love blends. I'm like, and all the blends. I love to blend my own whiskies to drink at home. Got lots of little almost ends of bottles. It's always great to chuck them together. But there's so much to taste, and I can't believe how limiting I was to myself to just drink single malts when I started in whiskey. So yeah, everything's changed. But yeah, so that's me.
No, it's awesome. I mean, I was about to be very upset when you said you drink 10% grains, because I am a single grain lover, as most people think, you know. Do not shut up about them. But no, it's so true. And I think also it's always baffled me. I got into whiskey when I was about 22, and I was obsessed with it from the first time I tasted it. And as somebody who maybe hadn't, grown up that much with whiskey, I was like, well, and this is a single cask. The art of blending is in single malts and in blends in a very similar way. So why is there this very bizarre way of holding blends as somehow lesser than single malts? We need to get over this, I think, because we drink whiskey.
Well, I started in bars, and I must admit, it took me until 23, 24 to get into whiskey. I should, in theory, have grown up loving it. I grew up in Speyside and just outside Speyside. I grew up in Scotland, in Speyside for most of my life, and a little bit down in Glasgow. But the very first time that I had a whiskey, it was maybe a Lafroig, it was maybe a Lagavulin, and I was about 16. And I remember my friend just said, try this. And I was an idiot drinker. I was drinking like passion fruit Bacardi Breezers or my drinking. And I remember knocking back this burning liquid, and was just like, it was in my nose. And I was like, no, if that is the national drink of Scotland, I will stick with Iron Brew, Scotland's other national drink. I was like, not
no.
But then I started working in a whiskey bar, and they were like, pick what you like. You can have whiskey, coffee, or beer. And I was like, whiskey has to be the less of all evils. Like, I'll pick that one. And I've just fallen in love with it. And now I ended up being a blender. I work with whiskey every day. I taste whiskey almost every day. And I get to harass my friends with bottles, being like, let's try this on like weekends away, because I've got it and I don't know what to do with it. So that's really fun. I love doing that. So
oh my goodness. I share your love of that. Like, friends cannot come to my house, or I cannot go away without being like, you have to try this really cool thing. And I imagine lots of pour and sippers are similar. It's like, yeah, we're like a band of whiskey evangelists, forcing it on people almost.
For sure. And that's the thing, is like, I have like some of my whiskeys behind me I realized that my house is going through a transition at the moment. So we've got an odd angle that we're at while I've packed like half my living room up. So I put some whiskeys to look nice on the side. And then I realized like, that's probably not, that's about a tenth of what's currently like lying around the living room. And they're the nice ones that are mainly closed. I'm like, oh God, the mess of everything else, the boxes of whiskey. And it sounds like a boast, but it's like, where does it all go? And COVID, I think, has, with not being able to see people, you can't share in the same way. And for me, whiskey is so social. And when we can have barbecues, and like last May, was it? End of May, beginning of June, when you were allowed to meet like one other group of people outside. And I was able to take like a bottle of whiskey around to a barbecue. It felt like a revelation. I was just like, I want to drink and eat and socialize with friends. And whiskey, I think, is all about bringing people together. That's why I love Burns Night, because we're going to get to a time of the year that celebrates the cold, the dark, and the whiskey. And that's all I'm about for Scotland. I'm super lucky. I've got no plans, and I'm jealous for the people who are in distilleries for Burns Night. I'm so close to them, and yet I've already got commitments on Burns Night, so I will not be there. But yeah, might make myself a little beef Wellington, but you put haggis rather than mushroom.
Oh, that is a good recipe suggestion. Yeah, I like it.
Incredible.
Before we get stuck into this, because I have so many questions for you about the whiskey blending process and about this whiskey in particular, I'm just going to read out some comments already coming in. We've got some people are already tasting, which is wonderful. Crack on.
Yes.
Ian Jambo Rain, there's a bit of peat smoke in here. David's getting caramel, chocolate, and cinnamon. Jess says, I like the philosophy that your favourite whiskey is the one you're about to drink. I like it too. Steve Coleman Williams is on it. End blend snobbery. Pour and sip has cured me of my snobbery, as I say all the time. Yes.
I love that. I'm just like, because I had a boss when I worked. So I started work with William Grant and Sons. I did bar work. I did whiskey bars. I worked for William Grant and Sons in their laboratory. I was a lab tech. I did what I like to call sexy whiskey, which is the wastewater and effluent side of distilling. And then I began to get involved in sensory and then other things, and it all spiraled up to where I am now. But I always think my first love is the random wastewater, because my manager at the time had been in the distilling industry for 30 years, and he used to be like, stop being such a snob about grain. And I was like, I have worked in whiskey for 2 years. I think I know what I'm talking about. And every time I'm like, oh, Philip, you knew what you meant. You were right. Grain whiskey is the best whiskey. And I'm just like, I was so naive, 25, and like, I know what I'm talking about. I've grown up in single malt country. So yeah. And now I eat my words, but it's all good.
I like it. Oh, I mean, it's a good lesson to learn early, I think, for me.
Yeah, definitely.
So we've got, I've got too many coming in. I can't keep up with them all. Mike, I have a bottle of Grant tea, Swedish green tea infused whiskey. So do I just there. The tea theme is continuing. Mike, the compass box is incredibly smooth. I love that you're only 20 miles or so from me, a local one, which is...
Oh, yeah? Nice.
Malcolm Tucker, honey toffee, chocolate and coconut. We've got Mike, bit of wood, peat and spice. And we've got more people saying about pour and sip broadening their horizons to include blends, which is wonderful.
It is an amazing opportunity. Like, that's the thing is, if someone said, my mum, so I would like to say, and I'm not tooting my own horn now, but my job is a whiskey blender. I blend, and I like to think that I make good blends. People seem to enjoy drinking them. My mum was buying a gift for her friend's husband who was turning 65, and she went, I want to get him a nice whiskey. And I was like, oh, I'll get him one. And she's like, oh no, I want to get him a single malt. I want to get him a really good one. And I was just like, Mags, are you serious? This is, if I can't convince my own mother about blended scotches, and bearing in mind she doesn't drink, how am I meant to convince? I'm like, I am your child. You have to support me beyond all. And yet she's like, oh no, nice single malt. She ended up with a really nice bottle of something else. I think I bought her a blend, and she doesn't know, but she knows from the marketing that blends are not as good as single malts. That's what you're told. But it's not that they're not as good. It's just that they're a different animal. And I love that. You can create things with blends you can't create with single malts, but you can also get a single malt that just sings to you as well. You get those like golden drams where you're like, the sun shines and the angels sing. So yeah, there's space for everything. Oh.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So we've got Jess. Hey, let's not be dissing a passion fruit Bacardi Breezer now, which I enjoy. David on the tasting notes, on the palate, roasted nuts, toasted coconut, dried orchard fruit, cocoa and pepper. Will Henty, interesting. So it smells like his granny's curtains, which I actually enjoy as a tasting note because I think aroma and flavor is so evocative of like, it will often bring like little flashbacks. Peter Gould reminds me of one of those snowball cakes with cream inside and all covered in coconut. I'm really not going to get through all of these, but there are so many of them. I'm going to read two more and then I'm going to go to Ian Turner's question because it's exactly the question I was going to ask you. So we've got Real Boying. It's a complex on the nose, more and more as you sniff. Malcolm, on my palate, I'm getting burnt cinder, toffee coconut with peat smoke. And then Elle Sutton, another one about being educated into blends. But the question from Ian Turner, please explain how you made this whiskey. More important question.
So every whiskey begins, actually, that's a complete lie. Ignore the last 10 words of that. Every time I start a whiskey, I like to think about what I want at the end. So I like to think, what have I got? What have I tasted? What has excited me? And then I also like to think, what do I want to finish with? So we already have a whiskey that is called Artist Blend, which I always think of is like the nicer little sister of Glasgow Blend. Glasgow Blend, if you've ever seen 10 Things I Hate About You, there's
Oh my gosh,
sisters
one of my favorite films of all time. Yes.
Yes, this is the cat of the sisters. This is punchy and rocky, and she's got attitude, and she like is great. And then you've got Bianca, who's like really girly and like super friendly, and everyone can kind of like befriend. Whereas this one can be a bit, you take more time to get into it. And I'm like, and I love this. It's like these two personalities. And we already had our super fruity, creamy, delicate Artist Blend. And I must admit, this recipe, while it's been tweaked by myself and by James, was originally created by Greg and John from Compass Box. She's going to say 2015. So this recipe precedes my time at Compass Box. But what they were looking for is like a rich, warming nod to the West Coast. They wanted big flavors. They wanted smoke. They wanted sherry. They also wanted to bring this beautiful Cameron Bridge grain in, which is like silky. And it's that Cameron Bridge that I always think. It's Cameron Bridge in both of our Artist and Glasgow blends. And it's like the polish that takes all the rough edges off. It is absolutely gorgeous. We've got Clynelish in there for a fruity note. We've got absolutely beautiful Craigellachie, which adds that heavy kind of like oof.
Yes.
And then in the background, that secret note, and it's mad because it's Laphroaig, is that smoke. And to me, Laphroaig is one of my favorite smells in the world. As a clumsy child, I grew up with Germaline. So
yes.
To me, the smell of Laphroaig is the smell of coming home hungry and bleeding because you spent all day in the woods. And we have another whiskey, Peat Monster, which is just behind me, which is like my perfect summer day smell because it smells like bonfires and swimming in the sea and Germaline and tree sap. But this has got those red fruity notes from the Clynelish. It's got it from the Craigellachie. It's got it a bit from some of our custom casks. And we put them together by thinking about how we want to finish our whiskey. We want our whiskey to be really well balanced. So we know that we want those red fruit flavored from the Craigellachie to balance the fresh greens of the Clynelish. The Laphroaig we want to be big but not overpowering. And then we want to blend it all together with that Cameron Bridge. This is actually a really difficult one to explain how it was created because it was kind of like a creation of 2 or 3 different styles that we brought together. But if you want to do any blending at home or you want to have a wee bit of a play around, get 3 whiskies that you really like that have different components. I love something like a Clynelish, which is really appley, or a Linkwood. Get a nice, fresh, vibrant, green flavored whiskey, if that makes sense. Like I always say green flavored because I think it smells and it tastes like orchards that have just been mown. So like mushed up apple and pear with all that fresh grass.
Like a lushness, a fresh lushness.
Like weird kind of like perry cider that's like almost tart in the mouth. So those gorgeous Clynelishie Linkwood kind of flavors. Even, be still in my heart, a Glenmorangie. Oh, I love it so much.
Love a Glenmorangie.
I love it. Then bring in like a nice big sherry. You want something, the Deanston Madeira cask, for example. I realize it's not sherry, but big, fruity, bold, maybe a Macallan, something nice and sherried and heavy. And then bring in a smoke. I am obsessed with Caol Ila. I also love Laphroaig. Oh God, I wish that I could go back in time to marry the founder of Caol Ila, for it is truly one of my favorite jams in the world. But take those 3 whiskies and just an empty glass, get yourself one of those wee pipettes and just add equal parts, taste it, see what you think stands out the most. For me, I always feel like peated whiskies and sherried whiskies, you can have equal quantities. And if you want them to lead a flavor, 1 part of each would be perfect. But if you want to have them all tempered, bring in more of that unpeated kind of Clynelishie Linkwood flavor. Bring it in, bring it up. Maybe make your entire recipe 10 parts and 6 parts of your unpeated, 3 of sherry, 1 of peat. And you'll get this beautiful movement through light and sweet into like rich flowers and kind of floral red fruits, and then ending with a kind of peated note at the end. but you can do anything you like. The thing about whiskey blending is the tweaking. And that's why your Clynelish cask, which we're drinking tonight, is so perfect, because we put all our components together, but then we refilled it back into a Clynelish barrel. So it was originally a first fill bourbon barrel, then filled with Clynelish, emptied. We say tipped, but some people say dumped. Dumped always makes me feel like, don't lose that. Like,
It's disrespectful to the dram.
at the same time, sometimes I'm like, hurry up and dump those casks. And I'm like, get them.
Give
So,
me the casks.
Give me the casks. So we dump the casks, we vat them. Vatting is basically like the industry word for putting them all in a great big stainless steel vat. It's about 10 to 20,000 litres, depending on how big. In fact, they're the tiny ones. Our one is only 10,000 litres. But when we do big vattings and like Johnny Walker, Glenfiddich, your big companies, they'll have 50, 60, 100,000 litre casks, 1,000 litre vats. You dump your casks in, you mix them, and then you fill them back into the wood component to allow them to marry together. It's not I would think you want them to get like real comfy with each other, but you just want them to kind of form one flavor. Because the thing I think that gives blends a bad name is when they taste spiky. They taste like 5 things shoved together rather than one beautiful homogeneous flavor. I don't mean homogeneous like it doesn't have depth. I just mean like it tastes like one single whiskey.
It's integrated and happy.
Integrated is the exact word I could not go with, and that's why I went with homogeneous. And I was like, oh, I can't think of the right word. But yeah, integrated. You want it all to come together. You just want it to be beautiful. So when we were checking our casks to make sure that we were happy with the maturation, your cask, among maybe 6 or 7 others, was pulled aside for its like scholarly excellence, essentially. The Clynelish cask, the wood had pushed so much extra kind of gorgeous grassy wax and like delicate apple flavors into this. So when you buy a usual Glasgow blend, it will be very similar to this, but there are subtle top notes in this that are lighter, sweeter, creamier, and fruitier that you wouldn't pick up. We have also done, we've done a couple of sherry casks from the Craigellachie that we have filled, and they were pulled, and they're much richer and bigger, and they're all fruitcake and all juice. So yeah, you've gone lighter and more kind of like homely style, which I love. But but this is the thing, it's not just the whiskey, it's not just the wood, it's the blending and the time. And I'm sorry, that was the biggest answer in the entire world.
I loved it, and I'm now gonna have a sip because I've been like, what is going on?
Do not let me talk, because I will not stop. I'm like, don't let my chatting ruin your enjoyment of drinking a good whiskey.
No, it's incredible. Not worried at all. It's amazing. We've had loads of comments. Oh my goodness, I love the smoke coming through on the end. Which is what TACD just said. I love that the smokiness just comes through in the background. Colin, this is a beautiful dram. Keeps revealing new things with every sip. I feel a purchase coming on. Reverend Kevin, I'm with those who say subtle smoke, slightly charred oak, lovely. Ali C, you could drink this all evening, so smooth and balanced, and that's coming from a former single malt snob.
Welcome.
Welcome to the party.
It should be like one day just blends and a pour and sip. It'll be like the recovery sessions. Like,
so good.
That could be the plan.
Be so good.
Yeah.
And then last one for now, because I'm very conscious of time. I don't know where it's gone. I feel like we need to have like bumper pour and sip sometimes so we can properly geek out for hours. From Chris Randall, this is truly complex, something to take time over. The flavors just roll around your mouth, sweet, saline, creamy spice box, which is wonderful.
I love that.
And then just to round off before we bring Olivier back, both tasted this evening better than the last 3, which is big shoes to fill because the last 3 drams are great as well. And then Chris saying, carry on, Jill, you're so interesting. So yes, big vote of confidence.
I will. I'm like one of those wind up toys. It's just like, I just go and I go. And then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I should drink this. And then there's silence. But no, I am so glad people are enjoying this. There's so many great things you can do. If you want to have like an amazing winter cocktail, I highly recommend making a whiskey sour with Glasgow blend because it's smoky, which you don't expect, but it's lemony, fresh, and just delicious. Great in a hot toddy, as I should have been drinking from my mug earlier. And yeah, like it's so versatile. It's great as well if you soak fruit in it before you eat it. So yeah, but no, I love it. And I have to say, Compass Box turned me round on what a blend could be. I'm so lucky I've worked with amazing people and amazing kind of mentors through my time in whiskey who've shown me how good whiskey can be, from not terrible burning sensations at the age of 16 to like falling in love with like your Ardbegs and all these kind of big flavors. And I've worked and I've talked to so many talented people that it made me appreciate what I'm drinking. But Compass Box introduced me to blends, and I think I'll always be grateful for that.
Well, cheers to that. This is a remarkable blend. Thank you for crafting it for us.
Thank you so much for picking it. I know I love these casks. They're one of my favorite projects I get to do. So yeah, cheers.
Thank you. Now let's bring Olivier back and we'll have a little geek out for the last 5 minutes or so, because we love a whiskey chat. We love it. Hey Olivier, how are you doing?
Well done on the blend, and I cannot support more in saying there are blends and there are blends.
Yes.
So you have to be careful, and it goes along with the prices. So don't expect a perfectly balanced blend for 20 quid in Tesco.
But I must say, all blends I think have their place from your £20 Tesco's.
Yeah.
Though
that goes nicely in a hot toddy.
Oh yeah, it does, definitely. There's so much, but yeah.
Well done on that blend. Seriously,
Thank
that Compass, it goes. And interesting, I didn't know about Lafroig, but you don't get the Lafroig, the typically Lafroig on it. Just nice. Nicely done.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. And I loved your Tobermory. I'm just like,
we have to visit each other.
Yes, we could do like a cultural exchange. That would be amazing.
Right.
You know.
That would be so good. And you'll have all of us poor and sippers tagging along for the cultural exchange too, because we're a nosy, geeky bunch, which is amazing. So while we have a little chat, I'm going to ask the question that I usually leave Andy to ask, because I hate it, because how could I ever choose? Andy, in his honour, because he's not here, would want to know, not me asking, Andy, what was everyone's favourite dram of the box and dram of the evening? So let us know. I know. And I mean, I would genuinely struggle this evening because they're both so different and so delicious. And I feel like it's such a treat to get to taste them both and chat to you guys, which is awesome. So I'm going to put a question to both of you that we had come through earlier. This was from Will Henty, which is really interesting. Some whiskies have like a bit of a salty taste to them. Like, where does that come from? Because my understanding is salt isn't something that comes through distillation.
I would agree with that. Salinity, that kind of flavour, I always think has to come from the wood afterwards. Because if you take Bowmore, which you mentioned earlier, I love that perfumed kind of note that you get from whiskey, and that comes through the distillate. But I think it tastes like the coast. It's kind of, for want of a better thing, it's like licking the sea. It's got that lovely kind of like mermaidy kind of flavor to it, and I think that all comes from the wood. You definitely don't get that kind of salty note as much when you look at kind of Speyside, but the coastal distilleries, and I don't know, because in theory nothing should be coming through those barrels, but I think maybe they're just like hitting a vibe. But it definitely has to come from the oak, because you're right, salt is not a flavor that is able to be distilled. So yeah.
What's your take, Olivier, being a coastal distillery right by a harbour?
I totally agree on the air. So I absolutely I think it's the air goes through that wood, even though it should not. But and see if you taste a Tobermory, no saltiness. Then you go into Ledaig and you get that saltiness as well. It's interesting though, absolutely. And then you get those distilleries like Cask. You get really that saltiness from the sea because it's down matured at the sea.
Yeah, it's so interesting, isn't it? And I always struggled with the whole, but I can taste salt in this whiskey, where does it come from thing? And I think it is one of these things, because often you can trace it back to, well, it's something that's come from fermentation, or something that's come from the peat, or something that's obviously come from what was in that cask before. Thinking of the Rioja cask Ledaig right there for a great example of cask finishing. But sometimes it's like, this is a mystery. But you both have explained it, so that is excellent. Right, I'm going to try and read through as many of these as I can because there are very, very, very many. We will go from, okay, I'm not going to be able to read them all because we will be here until midnight. Peter, 2 very good drams this evening. I already have the Tobermory, but we'll have to get the Glasgow blend and the Loch Lomond. Ali C, very valid point from Olivier there. Compass box blends are a step above the rest. Reverend Kevin, this Compass box is one of my favourites from this box. Cardrona, but Jura is my top. Chris says Dead Heat. Wild-Eyed Bill, all very good, but Loch Lomond, Peter, Single Grain, and Compass Box my favourites. Excellent selection. Elle Sutton, I like Elle Sutton's take on this, and I'm going to ask you this question to mull over while I read the rest. Elle Sutton, it's probably sacrilege, but it pairs very well with cheesy puffs. So while I read out the rest of these, I want you to both think about your unconventional whiskey pairing that's your favourite. Compass Box the best. Steve Comer Williams, Tobermory for me tonight. David Jura first, Compass Box second. Ian Turner Jura. Malcolm Tucker this evening, Compass Box, which comes a very close second in the month to Jura. Drama evening is Compass Box, but Cardrona overall by a nose. TACD Tobermory is my favourite tonight, though I really like the subtle peat of the Compass Box. Phil, difficult choice to divide the two this evening, but I'd have to say Tobermory. Oh my goodness, there's so many, and there's really neck and neck. We've got Tobermory for Graham Lloyd Jones. We've got the Compass Box for Chris. We've got the top 3 Jura, Compass Box, Cardrona. Then we've got Loch Lomond Dram of the Month for Joe. We've got Mike saying, love the Jura, but the Compass Box was the greatest surprise. And then Ian, for me, the Cardrona was my favourite, but I enjoyed the Tobermory, both purchased through the store, plus a cheeky advent calendar with 20% off. A reward, I make that a free bottle of Tobermory. I like that approach a lot. If you've got a discount on one, the other's free. Why not? So, unorthodox whiskey pairings. Jill, what are your thoughts? Cheesy puffs?
Well, in the cheesy puff vein, I am a huge fan of, I haven't done them at home because I think they sound too faffy, but I love polenta chips. And when you put the Parmesan through them, that creamy, fatty, kind of cheesy loveliness, and then they fry it. And I'm like, well, you have made my day. I love that kind of flavor, but I'm big on kind of meats and cheeses. We used to do a lot of chocolate pairings, but I love a pudding. I am really into kind of like, if you take pineapple or peaches, soft white fruits on the grill, cook them off, and then have them with a little bit of whiskey for dessert. It's also kind of healthy because it's fruit, so it's like fruit. So it's healthy. So why not have it as like part of your good January kind of plans? But yeah, baked and roasted fruit and polenta chips with everything, but definitely with Glasgow blend as well.
That sounds incredible. Incredible. Olivier, what's your unconventional whiskey and food pairing?
Well, unconventionally, I will go with sour cream.
Ooh, that's a good shout.
Yeah.
It's so different on your palate than the whiskey.
Yeah.
So it drives you on the note to really consider those two mixtures.
Yeah, that's true.
Or cake sometimes. And of course, being a Swiss, it's chocolate and cheese.
Yeah.
What can I say?
How unconventional can you get? And it's like, they are my national foods. And I'm like, I am there with you. I'm just like, pair your chocolate, pair your cheese. I love cheese and whiskey. I just think it goes. It's perfect.
Just mention, we do have our Ledaig cheese up in Mull.
Okay, I'll be there.
Hang on. Thought twist. How is this made?
Zero waste. So our draft, it's been brought to the farmer up the hill. It's people farm. They're producing cheese, and one of them, we put some Ledaig in it. They bring the cheese down to our shop, and we sell it.
And also, I imagine the cows will eat the draft. So it's like whiskey from the start to the finish. That's so perfect.
It's stories over stories in Tobermory, okay?
I love that. That's amazing.
Closed loop incredibleness. Right. Very sadly, we've come to the end of our time together this evening, which is very sad. Although I am now extremely hungry after the cheesy puff chat and then the cheese chat and the chocolate chat and all the fruit chat. So I'm going to go off and have a snack. But thank you so much, both. It's been an absolute joy. 2 incredible whiskies. Thank you so much for everyone who's tuned in. What an amazing night. I've absolutely loved it. Thank you all for keeping me company with Andy not being here, leaving me on my own as he goes off to Miami. How dare he?
Ooh, nice.
It is good. But yes, it's been an absolute joy. Thank you so much, both.
Thank you very much.
Thanks to you as well. Thanks for having us.
See you soon, folks. Enjoy.
See you soon. Thank
Happy
you very much.
Valentine's to
Take care.
everyone.